Hi, for this demo, I'm going to show how to make the insides of a bowl smooth. When we were making a vase, that wasn't much of a consideration since you couldn't see the inside of the vase. But I'm going to make a kind of a pie shaped, pizza pie shaped bowl. And I'm going to start, make sure I have enough to come to a point. I'm going to try and use a continuous slab of clay for the outside of the bowl. So I've beveled and slipped both. I think I forgot to slip this piece. And on the corners, I'm going to gently make the clay turn that corner, giving it a little bit of water just in case it's so dry that it wants to crack. And I actually want as tight a corner as possible, so I'm going to go from that dowel down to a pencil and see if I can get a nice, sharp but rounded corner. Okay. So I think that's about as sharp as I want. Sharp as actually I'm going to get it without having it crack here. So I've got a pencil in there just to keep it, make myself aware that I want to keep that at a 90-degree angle. And I'm going to go ahead and push this side down. So it's now a 45-degree angle and tightly. This one's tightly to the back. There's less slip there since I didn't put slip in, but that's okay. I'll go ahead and put slip on this piece. And again, I'll try and gently, no, with one twist, get this clay to turn a corner. Even just by smoothing the outside, I'm making it stronger. So here's another pencil I can use. Press that around there before I press this side in. But that's about the angle I want. So I'm happy with that. When I get down here, I want to, I have extra clay. We definitely wouldn't want to have to add clay. So I'm going to cut some off. I'm going to use an upright guide so that when I cut this, I am making sure it's straight up from the table. So that guide helps with that. And then once I've cut that, I've got to get the angle of the point. I'm going to go ahead and cut the other side. And it's pretty, almost a ½ inch too long. This is the point where you might want to measure twice, cut once. But I'm going to go ahead now and make this a very sharp angle. It's definitely sharper than a 45-degree angle. Just going to do it with my knife. Keep taking off clay in there until I feel like it's going to fit. This one, still a little bit long. I'm going to cut this one again. Nice straight edge so that I can go down on that edge and cut my angle of the clay where it's going to, oops, go in with the other side. Okay, I've got it too sharp. can maybe see from the top how those two are going to fit together pretty well now. Okay. So I can go ahead and scratch them, flip them, and put them together. And I'm going to do that quickly just so that can set up. I like to press my walls sometimes with this block so that I know I'm getting them to standing straight up in the air. And you can see it's not perfect yet, but it can be maneuvered in. So I'm going to let it set up a little bit to be softer, since all that slip is going to soften it up. So one thing I've done here is saved my beveled edges on here. So I'm going to take this beveled edge, take the two short sides. If you look at it in a cross section, there's a triangle with two short sides and a long side. I am putting slip on the two sides that will go right into the crack of this bowl, nicely fitting into that corner. That's why I like to use this rather than a coil. It's not exactly round and it fits better. So I'm going to go ahead and place that in here. And I'll show you just how it happened to go in. Obviously, I can't get my fingers down in there, okay? So I'm going to use some kind of tool to press it down into the corner, where corners as I want it to be. So you may have to move that clay a little bit. So it's pretty much where I want it to be, and I'm just short with it going to the V. I've gotten it on two sides, but not down to the V. So I'm going to take another piece of my bevel edging. Well, let's see, did I have a longer one? Here's a nice one. And it already has some slip on it. So I'm going to put that in and get it as close as I can to the other, where the other one left off. But I know I'm going to have to move that with a pencil. And yes, I want it to come up behind this sharp curve. So I'm only just a ½ an inch short there. I'll take another little piece and put it right as close as I can to where that can fill in with that curve. So now I've got clay on each seam of my bowl, and I want to mush it in so that it's nice and smooth. So I'm going to put slip on it to make it soft. So yes, slip will help hold it there, but the main reason, I could even use water, the main reason is I just want that clay to get soft enough to go down into that corner. So while I'm waiting on that, I could, to soften up a little bit, I could work on this point, make sure I've got the point that I want and that I don't have any seam showing or not very much seam showing. So I'm just using a rib to make that nice and smooth. Okay, I want this to come to a nice point. Again, I'll use a rib. And this is the most critical weak point of the bowl right here. So I'm going to put a little more wet clay in there. I can use some more of this beveled edging. And I'm going to let it come right over the edge. So you see how it's going to strengthen that top corner. Okay. So while I still waiting for the bottom to soften up a little bit, I can make sure my top is nice and straight like I want it. This isn't quite ready to work. And I could flip this over and just make sure that the bottom looks good. So it's pretty rough. It's time for the old roller trick to smooth that out. So down and the side, and down and the side, just to get rid of that seam. If I have extra clay on the corners, it might need to come off. This point's a little bit wonky, so I'll put a little pressure on there to try and even that up. But I think that's pretty good. And basically just give it a nice smooth edge. All the way around, making sure the corners get the smooth edge too. So I'm really kind of going on the top, which is the base of the bowl, and the side. And then either using the rib or just my fingers to make that a smooth transition between those two. I also want this to stand up a little bit from the table that it's on. So I'm making this, the outside curve, a little bit more pronounced. Okay. Okay, that would be a good time to sign it as well. Now, I'm ready, I think, to mush together that inside using anything that's, see, I can't get my fingers down in there. So I'm going to use a pencil. I could use a brush, just going back and forth, back and forth. I could use a sponge if I have one small enough to go down in there. There is a throwing tool, which is a sponge on a stick, which I was using a minute ago. I don't know where it went. Here it is. So this is just a sponge with rubber banded onto a stick or dowel. And that can also be used to smooth those corners. So it's just a little bit harder to smooth these corners since your finger won't go down in there. But it certainly can be done. So that I'm envisioning this kind of as a condiment bowl so that it could hold food and be appetizing without any seam down there. And be sure and get the seam here that comes up to the point so that it also is smooth. Now see, that one I can get my finger in, so I could use my finger to smooth that one. So inside of the bowl has a smooth edge. I could keep working with it. I could use a tool with a little bit more of a blunt end if I wanted to take off some clay. That clay is very workable now, so you have to be careful. However you move it is where it's going to go. But I thought I had a little bit extra clay, so this is just taking it off. So I do need to round it after that, etc., etc. You can play with this all day, but it is now a strong bowl. So the only thing else I would do would be to make sure that my top edge is nice and smooth, that I still have the shape I want. Make those corners round. Make the top nice and flat. It's extra clay here that we used to strengthen it. And I want to make sure that that's pushed down so that there's no seam in it. So my final touch is going to be either sponge or fingers, getting off. I don't want a rounded edge on this particular bowl. I kind of want to show the width of the clay, but I do want to make sure it's not sharp. So I'm rounding it with my fingers. And that's my pie-shaped bowl. Thank you.